Let's begin by demystifying two of the most discussed yet often misunderstood terms in the automotive world: torque and power. Think of torque as the twist or rotational force an engine can produce. Imagine you are trying to loosen a very tight lid on a jar. The initial forceful twist you apply with your hand to get that lid moving is torque. It's the grunt, the raw turning effort. In a car, this is the force that gets your vehicle moving from a standstill, the shove in the back you feel when you first press the accelerator. It's a measure of instantaneous turning capability, fundamental to getting mass into motion. Now, let's talk about power. Power is the rate at which that twisting force, or work, can be done. If torque is the force you apply to the jar lid, power is how quickly you can spin that lid off once it's loose. Power is calculated from torque and engine speed, revolutions per minute, or RPM. So, while torque is about the amount of work your engine can do in one rotation, power is about how fast it can do that work over and over again. High power means the engine can sustain its effort at high speeds, allowing a car to achieve a high top speed or accelerate rapidly once it's already moving. To put it into another context, consider a weightlifter. The sheer force they can exert to lift a heavy barbell off the ground is their torque. They are applying a massive amount of force to initiate the movement. Power, on the other hand, would be how many times they could lift a slightly lighter barbell over their head in 1 minute. The first lift is a demonstration of pure strength, torque, while the repetitive, rapid lifting demonstrates their ability to do work quickly, which is power. One isn't inherently better than the other. They simply describe different aspects of performance. This fundamental difference is why you feel these two forces differently from behind the wheel. Torque is that immediate, satisfying push that pins you to your seat from a red light. It's what makes a car feel punchy and responsive in city traffic or when climbing a steep hill. Power is the sensation of ever-increasing speed as you merge onto a motorway. The feeling that the car just keeps pulling and pulling as the engine screams towards its red line. Understanding this distinction is the first step to choosing a car that truly suits your driving needs. In everyday city driving, torque is arguably your best friend. Navigating the stop-start rhythm of urban streets involves countless small accelerations. You need to pull away from traffic lights, merge into gaps, and get up to the local speed limit quickly. A car with a healthy amount of torque available at low engine speeds excels here. It feels effortless. You don't need to rev the engine high to get the car moving. A gentle press of the accelerator provides an immediate response. This is why many modern city cars, especially those with small turbocharged engines or electric motors, feel so zippy and competent in this environment. They deliver their twisting force early and effectively. Once you leave the city and hit the open motorway or a winding country road, the conversation shifts more towards power. Sustaining high speeds and performing overtakes requires the engine to do work rapidly and continuously. This is where horsepower comes into play. When you pull out to pass a lorry, you need your car to accelerate strongly from, say, 60 to 80 miles per hour. This requires the engine to be operating in its power band, typically at higher RPMs. A car with high horsepower will feel strong and relentless in these situations, continuing to build speed with an urgency that a low-power, high-torque vehicle might lack. Off-roading presents another scenario where torque reigns supreme. When you're trying to climb a steep, muddy incline or crawl over large rocks, you aren't concerned with high speed. You need precise, controllable, and immense rotational force at very low wheel speeds. A high-torque engine allows a 4x4 to idle its way over obstacles without stalling, applying just the right amount of twist to the wheels to maintain traction and forward momentum. In this world, high horsepower is often useless and can even be a hindrance, as it can lead to wheel spin and a loss of control. The grunt to turn the wheels slowly but unstoppably is everything. Finally, consider the act of towing. Pulling a heavy caravan or trailer is all about overcoming inertia. You need a massive amount of initial force to get the combined weight of your vehicle and the trailer moving. This is a pure torque game. A vehicle with high torque, like a diesel-powered lorry or a large SUV, can pull away from a standstill without straining the engine. It can also maintain speed up hills without needing to constantly shift down gears. Power helps to maintain that speed on the flat, but torque is what gets the job done when the going gets tough and heavy. So how are these two distinct concepts mathematically linked? The formula that connects them is surprisingly simple and reveals everything about their relationship. In its most basic form, Power is a product of torque and rotational speed. The exact formula used in the automotive industry is horsepower equals torque times engine speed in RPM, divided by 5,252. This number 5,252 is a constant that tidies up the units to give us the familiar horsepower figure. The crucial takeaway here isn't the number itself, but the direct relationship it illustrates between power, torque, and engine speed. This equation tells us a very important story. If you have an engine's torque curve, a graph showing how much torque it makes at different RPMs, you can calculate its power curve. Notice that at 5,252 RPM, the torque and horsepower values will always be identical. Below this engine speed, the torque figure will always be higher than the horsepower figure. Above 5,252 RPM, the horsepower figure will always be higher than the torque figure. This is not a coincidence or a quirk of certain engines. It is a mathematical certainty defined by the formula itself. Let's think about what this means for different types of engines. A big, lazy V8 in a muscle car might produce a huge amount of torque at a very low RPM, say 300 pound-feet at just 2000 RPM. This gives it that incredible off-the-line punch. However, if it can't maintain that torque as the revs climb, its horsepower figure won't be as impressive. Conversely, a small high-revving engine in a sports car might produce much less torque, maybe 150 pound-feet, but it can sustain it all the way to 8,000 RPM. Because power is a function of that torque being applied at high speed, it generates a very high horsepower figure. This is why you can't just look at a peak horsepower or torque number in isolation. The shape of the torque curve is what truly defines an engine's character. An engine with a flat torque curve, meaning it produces its peak torque across a wide range of RPMs, will feel flexible and responsive in almost any gear. An engine with a very peaky torque curve, where the torque only arrives at high RPM, will feel sluggish until you rev it hard, at which point it comes alive. The maths shows us that power isn't a separate force. It's the result of applying torque quickly. Having a car with big horsepower and torque figures is one thing, but those numbers mean very little without considering the vehicle's weight. This is where the concepts of power-to-weight and torque-to-weight ratios become essential. These ratios tell you how much power or torque is available to move each kilogram of the car's mass. To calculate them, you simply divide the engine's power or torque output by the car's curb weight. The resulting number gives a much more accurate indication of a car's potential real-world performance than the raw engine specifications alone. Let's consider an example. A heavy luxury saloon might have a powerful 400 horsepower engine. At the same time, a lightweight sports car, like a Lotus Elise, might only have 200 horsepower. On paper, the saloon seems twice as powerful. However, the saloon might weigh 2,000 kilograms, while the Lotus weighs only 1,000 kilograms. The saloon's power-to-weight ratio is 200 horsepower per ton. The Lotus, despite having half the power, has the exact same power-to-weight ratio of 200 horsepower per ton. This means their straight-line acceleration could be surprisingly similar. The torque-to-weight ratio is equally, if not more important for understanding how a car will feel in certain situations. This ratio is a fantastic indicator of a car's initial get-up and go. A diesel family hatchback might not have a headline-grabbing horsepower figure, but it could produce a lot of torque low down in the rev range. If the car is also relatively light, its high torque-to-weight ratio will make it feel incredibly responsive and brisk for city driving and pulling away from junctions, giving the driver a satisfying surge of acceleration without needing to work the engine hard. These ratios are the great levelers in the automotive world. They explain why a small, light car with a modest engine can feel more exciting and agile than a large, heavy car with a massive engine. When choosing a car, looking beyond the brochure's peak figures and considering these ratios will give you a much clearer picture of its character. A high power-to-weight ratio suggests strong high-speed performance, while a high torque-to-weight ratio points towards effortless low-speed acceleration and pulling power. It's about how efficiently the car's power and torque can influence its mass. Let's apply this knowledge to specific car examples. For the typical city dweller, a car like the Volkswagen Up GTI is a perfect case study. It has a tiny 1-liter turbocharged engine, but it's exceptionally light. Its modest horsepower is less relevant than its torque, which is produced very low in the rev range thanks to the turbocharger. This gives it a fantastic torque-to-weight ratio, making it feel eager and nippy in traffic. It darts into gaps and pulls away from lights with an enthusiasm that belies its small engine size. The focus here is on accessible low RPM performance, not on a high top speed. For the sports car enthusiast, a vehicle like the Porsche 911 GT3 tells a different story. Its naturally aspirated flat-six engine doesn't produce its peak power until it's screaming at nearly 9,000 RPM. While it has healthy torque, its identity is defined by its colossal horsepower figure and its ability to thrive at high engine speeds. This car is designed for the racetrack and fast, sweeping roads. The driver is encouraged to use the gearbox to keep the engine in its power band, where it delivers exhilarating, ever-building acceleration. Here, a high power-to-weight ratio is the key to its blistering performance. Now, let's venture off-road with a classic like the Land Rover Defender. This vehicle is built with one primary goal in mind: tackling difficult terrain. Its engine, particularly the diesel variants, is designed to produce a huge wave of torque from just above idle. This allows it to crawl over obstacles with immense control. Its horsepower figure is almost an afterthought. The Defender's high torque, combined with its low-range gearing, gives it an incredible ability to turn its wheels with massive force at incredibly slow speeds, which is precisely what's needed to conquer a mountain pass or a muddy field. Finally, we enter the world of tuning and modification. A cult car like the Toyota Supra is a blank canvas. From the factory, it offers a great balance. However, tuners often chase huge horsepower numbers. They might install a massive turbocharger that only delivers its boost at very high RPM. The result can be a car with 1,000 horsepower, but one that feels sluggish and unresponsive until the turbo kicks in. This creates a very narrow power band, making the car difficult to drive on the street. It demonstrates that simply adding a big number can upset the car's balance and drivability. The pursuit of more power and torque is a siren song for many car enthusiasts. The aftermarket tuning industry is built on the promise of unlocking more performance from your engine. However, this often leads to a focus on peak numbers at the expense of overall balance. A car is a complex, interconnected system. Dramatically increasing its power or torque without considering the other components is a recipe for disappointment or even disaster. It's a classic case of a chain only being as strong as its weakest link. Imagine you've tuned your engine to produce 100 more horsepower. That extra power needs to be managed by the rest of the drivetrain. The clutch, which was designed for the original power output, might now slip under the increased load. The gearbox, with its precisely engineered cogs and bearings, could be subjected to forces it was never intended to handle, leading to premature wear or catastrophic failure. The drive shafts and axles could also be put under immense strain. A big power figure is useless if you can't reliably transmit it to the road. Beyond the drivetrain, the chassis itself needs to be able to cope. More power means you arrive at corners much faster. Are your brakes up to the task of shedding that extra speed? Upgraded brake pads, discs, and fluid are often essential modifications to ensure safety. Similarly, the standard suspension might not be able to control the car's body movements effectively with the newfound performance. This can lead to a car that feels unstable and unpredictable when cornering or accelerating hard. The tires, your only connection to the road, also need to be able to handle the increased forces. This is why a balanced approach is so critical. A truly well-sorted car is one where the engine, drivetrain, brakes, and suspension all work in harmony. Sometimes, the best modification isn't adding more power, but improving another area. Better tires can transform a car's grip, better brakes can increase driver confidence, and improved suspension can make the car more stable and enjoyable to drive. Chasing a single impressive number on a dynamometer printout often overlooks the holistic nature of vehicle performance. The most satisfying cars are not always the most powerful, but the most balanced. So, after exploring the twists and turns of torque and power, what should you, the driver, look for? The answer depends entirely on your primary use for the vehicle. There is no single best combination. The ideal balance is subjective and dictated by your needs. Let's break it down into some clear advice for different types of drivers. If you are a city driver, your priority should be accessible, low RPM torque. Look for cars with turbocharged engines or electric or hybrid powertrains. A high torque-to-weight ratio will make your daily commute feel effortless and responsive, without the need to rev the engine hard. For the highway driver or the enthusiast who enjoys long-distance touring, a balance of healthy torque and a solid horsepower figure is ideal. You need enough torque to make overtaking feel unstressed. But you also need enough horsepower to maintain high speeds comfortably and efficiently. An engine with a broad, flat torque curve is your best bet, as it will provide flexible performance across a wide range of speeds and in any gear. This ensures a relaxed yet capable driving experience on long journeys, where the engine never feels like it's working too hard. If you're an off-road adventurer, your focus should be almost exclusively on torque, especially at very low engine speeds. Look for vehicles with diesel engines or petrol engines designed for grunt, often paired with a low-range transfer case. This combination provides the immense, controllable twisting force necessary for crawling over obstacles. High horsepower is largely irrelevant and can even be counterproductive in these low-speed, high-traction scenarios. The ability to apply precise, unstoppable force to the wheels is the ultimate goal. Finally, for the tuning enthusiast, the advice is simple: seek balance. Before chasing a massive power figure, consider the entire vehicle system. Ask yourself what you want to achieve. Is it faster lap times? If so, investing in brakes, tires, and suspension might yield better results than an extra 50 horsepower. A thoughtfully modified car, where every component is upgraded to work in harmony with the others, will always be more rewarding and reliable to drive than a car with one big number and a list of overwhelmed supporting parts. The ultimate car is not the one with the most power or torque, but the one where every element is perfectly matched to its purpose.